10 years after Napoleon sailed into exile on St. Helena, the frigate Maidstone stood at anchor off another tiny Atlantic landmass. Prince's Island was an unlikely refuge, scarcely 10 miles by 4 and lying just 1 degree 37 minutes north of the equator within the Gulf of Guinea, but for the flagship of the Navy's latest campaign, it provided a welcome respite. In September of that year, 1825, the temperatures of equatorial Africa were tolerable and the tornadoes had passed, along with the wettest weather. From his quarterdeck in West Bay, Commodore Charles Bullen could look out on dense jungle, a land of green swept by the jagged outline of spent volcanoes. With its rich soil, abundant vegetation and sweet scent, Prince's Island had resources essential to his squadron's well-being, and in this week at rest, Bullen indulged Maidstone's hands. Off-duty, men dangled lines from the forecastle for fish. Boats went ashore daily, returning with fruit and water, but seamen were no bathers, so the palm beaches at hand would have had little allure. Besides, they had other matters in mind. This idyll was going to be brief. Soon they would return to the most perilous peacetime operation in the Navy's history. Commodore Bullen was late to this fray, still finding his way in waters that offered no prospect of reviving past glories. Aged 45, he had been at sea since he was 10, rising to command through distinguished service, along with a degree of patronage, and with battle honours from Camperdown and Trafalgar to show for it. Years on half-pay followed Napoleon's defeat before he was offered the Maidstone, flagship of the Preventative Squadron in West Africa and command in a war like no other. It seems unlikely that Bullen had embarked with any particular notions of service to humanity. Resilience, popularity with his fellows, and experience were what suited him for the gruelling task. Patrolling the bights of West Africa was a dreaded duty, carrying the highest mortality rate of any Navy station. It had indeed been the death of his predecessor, an old friend, Sir Robert Menz. Like others who served here, however, Bullen soon found himself affected by new visions of suffering. Although familiar with sea battle, the calamity wrought on bodies by cannonballs and flying shards of timber, he was overwhelmed by discovering the conditions in which captive Africans were being transported across the Atlantic. He wrote, after boarding his first slave vessel, "The filthy and horrid state I found her in beggars all description. Many females were in an advanced state of pregnancy, and several had infants of 4 to 12 months of age. All were crowded together in one mass of living corruption.